Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the virtual office hours of Commissioner Wilson.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We have some special guests here that we're excited to
Yay.
introduce. My name is Lee Perry. I am the one who answers the District1 at ocfl.net email. You can drop your questions in the chat so we can answer them at the end. But Commissioner Wilson, today we wanted to go through some updates before we talk to our special guests.
Yeah, just starting out with saying I'm really grateful because today the people you're going to meet just again and again make me so proud to live in Orange County and be part of a community that cares as much as they do. And I know that we're not perfect and we have a lot of problems to solve as a community, but understanding, the heart and the passion of these people it really it motivates me and inspires me. And so we'll get into talking about pets and dogs and pet cats and all of our favorite friends in a second, but a couple quick reminders. Vision 2050, for those of you all who have been following the update to the comprehensive plan. And this is when we talk about development and what's going to happen in the future. And I know 2050 seems really far away, but it doesn't mean that we are actually waiting till 2050 for this plan. It means that this is the plan that will go into place getting us to 2050. And we are continuing to engage the public and ask for input, and they will start their summer series at Vision 2050 June 1st. So if you're interested in, giving your opinion, your thoughts, ideas on planning, growth, zoning, how those things will look in the future, and, your frustrations even with the way that things have planned in the past that you might be able to articulate in a way like, well, we should do it like this, please, please, please join in this conversation. If you go to OCFL Vision 2050, it'll have even the old videos of updates. You'll notice we have our masks on today because even though we're all vaxxed here, we're still really hopeful that people out there are being super careful and making sure that they are being conscientious of their neighbors and friends. And we really also want to remind you at this point, 16 and up, everybody is eligible for a vaccine. We are hopeful that in the coming days that the 12 to 15 age group will become eligible. And then I would love to see, and hopefully this will happen, we're going to start seeing some of those vaccines make their way into doctors' offices and pediatricians' offices. Right now, the Orange County Convention Center site is only doing the second doses. If you want to check to see if your appointment for your second dose is still on track, you can log into the ocfl.net vaccines. What they've done now is they've actually broken it out into different sites across the county. So starting at walk-up series at different rec centers, we have a Goldenrod Park Recreation Center site, a Meadow Woods site, South Econ, and out in District 1, the West Orange Recreation Center. And you don't need an appointment for those. Those are walk-up sites. So please, 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 please bring a friend. Try to encourage people. I don't know if you all saw on the news today, but the Pfizer vaccine, it looks like either it's going to be done with complete approvals. I think there's some misconceptions out there about what that means. It was approved. We are taking a vaccine that has now probably been tested on more people and used by more people than what you would see in a normal drug release over a 10-year span because of the sheer number of people that have been vaccinated. And the more evidence that we get back, the more that we know it is safe and it is preventing hospitalizations and deaths across the country. And if we can get our community to that 70% mark, they're saying they call that community immunity. And it just assures us of really being able to go back to our full, pre-pandemic lifestyle. So please, please, please get your vaccine. What other reminders did I have before?
Well, I wanted to say, Commissioner, today you gave me a lot of hope because you said that almost every high schooler that you talked to has said that they've gotten vaccinated, and that age group right now, they're
Yes.
really struggling to get people to come and get their vaccines. So
Yeah.
that made me feel really hopeful.
Yes, they're, I think young people typically think that they're immune to everything anyway.
Yeah.
I loved when I was asking some younger folks in my life that they were getting vaccinated, and I think it's because they had friends or parents or whatever that were encouraging them or taking them. And so I think that just needs to continue to be the chain of communication. If you have any questions about those sites or about needing an appointment or not, or what you need when you go there, you don't need to be a Florida resident anymore. So if you are here as a visiting student. Even now you can go get your vaccination, and really it is our young people that are positive cases. And so yeah, I think we're going to get there. I would love to see OCPS setting up in every high school during a school day. I know they were at 4 high schools last weekend. We will let you know this weekend if there's any other pop-up sites, but they did it on a weekend, which I think then kind of led to not getting the type of result that they were anticipating or wanted. It needs to happen during a school day, just like the Bloodmobile, where, you might get a cookie and a pass if you get out there.
Yeah, I mean, Biden just made an update saying that you can get discounts at stores like Walgreens and things like that for when you buy anything.
They made fun of me when I said a shot for a shot, because I said, how are we going to get our young people? We need to head to the bars and do a shot.
Office hours.
Shot for a shot, because I think, to that point, if you give a coupon, it might just be a reminder. It could just be something kind of fun or funny, but whatever we need to do to try to encourage people to get it done so that we can all be safer and move forward.
Yeah, well, today you actually went to a press huddle with the mayor's team to thank the strike team today. That was awesome.
Yeah, so Orange County has, over the last year, crazy sounding as that is, tried really hard to make sure that there weren't hot spots popping up in the private world. And this is, obviously there's going to be some educational moments and some tension when we first rolled out some of the safety measures. 99% of businesses in Orange County were amazing in protecting their staff and their employees and their customers. There were a handful that, kind of needed to be brought back into compliance or given some extra resources. So this team that really pivoted from whatever their Orange County jobs were, which we had code enforcement and emergency services, they all switched roles and, became a completely different entity to try to make sure that the county businesses were being compliant and keeping people safe. Today sort of ended that, which should make everyone feel very optimistic to know that we're at a place now that we can just say thank you for your work during this crisis, and you did a great job. And so they came to the administration building to do just a public thank you to all those folks.
And so, that is, I can't believe it's May already. And that we're at a point where we're already doing crazy vaccines, like by the thousands every day here. And, we're already saying goodbye to those members who were doing the strike team. Like, that's awesome progress. May is also symbolic for the moms out there.
Oh, happy Mother's Day. Okay, and this is for all of the mom people, which means if
and
you are
moms.
pet moms, that's right. Exactly. Listen, I think, we all understand this idea that moms come in so many forms, and you think about the people in your life that, took a maternal role, and I think about them also this weekend and thank them. This also was Small Business Week. So please, I think that hearing the optimistic news about coming away from our COVID time period, there are still a lot of businesses really struggling, and our small businesses still really need your support. So, this weekend, if you haven't gotten food from a small business, you haven't, done, some kind of shopping in a small business, please keep them in mind, because this is also a week that we're trying to honor and hold them up.
Do you have a favorite small business, by the way? I've never asked you that before.
Do I have what?
A favorite small business.
That's a trick question for a politician,
Oh yeah, that's true. I will say vegan food trucks are my favorite genre.
I was going to say I like all of our Orange County small businesses. I have a special place in my heart for our movie theater, the West Orange 5, because
yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's the best.
It's the best, family owned, and the children of the families have grown up with mine, and they're very involved in our schools. So, you talk about an industry that was hit just devastating, the movie industry, and not just from the consumer side, but even, the production side. Hollywood decided to, basically hit the pause button, and so even the things that were in the pipeline ended up being released to streaming. So even when it got safe enough for them to hold regular movies, they had to, they really had a hard time getting people in. And so, yeah, your independent theaters, your independent movie theaters, and yeah, anybody in the entertainment business. But we're getting back there. I saw that the lights are coming back on Broadway, which, yeah, it's big. So that was very encouraging. You know what? I have two more. Hang on. This is a very busy month, and I can't believe they're having to share this because I think teachers also this week, all my teacher friends, I love you, and I'm so grateful for you. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. And I think Nurses Week. There was like a nurses.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I can't believe, by the way, that we have enough time in our calendar that nurses need their own dang month. Teachers deserve like a whole quarter.
Very true.
Right? So like we should probably do something about that. That might have to be something on my list of agenda items, because that is, you talk about two people that we would be just lost as a society without. It's our teachers and our nurses. So thank you, teachers. We love you. Thank you, nurses.
They're kind of like the moms of our society.
Yeah, so maybe that's why they, May got shared. Otherwise, I would just say, it's a typical mom thing to have to share their day.
Yeah.
It's also Asian Pacific Heritage Month.
Yes, which I think is so important right now. We're seeing some really kind of horrible stories about, hate crimes, focused towards Asian Americans and across the country. And I don't understand. It's hard for me to conceptualize how and why this would ever happen, but just, understand that the greatest part of being an American is how many cultures we have in our close company, our neighbors and friends. So yes, it's that's another May celebration.
Great month.
Yeah.
Do you have any other updates?
Okay, so library board, the 13th of May. If you are a Horizon West resident, and I know you have been following some of the updates about the library, the next board meeting is May 13th at 6 o'clock. They will have a Zoom link. I'll make it available. There is nothing on the agenda right now about any updates as far as what's going to happen with that branch. I've been told again and again, things are moving forward with the land acquisition. The study that needed to happen, the soil study, did happen. So that's a good sign, and I will continue to pester people because that's kind of what I do best.
I love books. Books are great.
Books are great. Everyone deserves a
Yeah.
library.
Everybody deserves a library. Well, thank you so much for doing that really awesome deep dive on updates. If you have any questions, feel free to email district1@ocfl.net or drop your questions in the comments. Now I'm excited to introduce our special guests. I don't know if you all saw any of the marketing, but today we wanted to talk a little bit about fostering and adopting pets and what that process is like. I'm nowhere near an expert. Commissioner has a lot of experience
This
in
is
this,
no.
but we wanted to bring some other voices to the table.
Yeah, we are in the
So,
midst of some really amazing people who have devoted so much time, so much energy, and have expertise. So I'm really, really grateful for them being here today. If we could go down the line and we'll do self-introductions so that we can kind of get a little bit of background too, if that's okay.
Sure. Thank you both so much for having all of us here. My name is Diane Summers, and I'm the manager for Orange County Animal Services, which is our county municipal shelter. You two recently paid us a visit, and I know you two are no strangers to the shelter as well. We're located over by the mall at Millennia, and being the county-run shelter, we are an open admission shelter. That's one of the things that sets us apart, which means no animal in need is ever turned away. As a result, last year we received more than 12,000 animals. So it's not uncommon for us.
12,000 animals.
Yes, and many people do not realize just the sheer depth of services and programs that we offer and the quantity of animals that are in need in our community. So we have an enforcement arm. We enforce our Orange County Code as it relates to animals. We also have an adoption program, foster program, volunteer program. We want to offer as many avenues for people to help animals as possible. And so I'm happy to be here today with you all and to talk about fostering, because that's a really important way for people to get involved and help.
Yeah, I mean, I think letting the public, letting our residents and friends know exactly what goes on in Orange County. We try to do it every week. This is such a critical part of it. And the pets that end up with you don't have a voice. So we are going to continue to try to make sure that we're getting as much information out there as possible. And I'm really grateful to have you here today and giving all the information and help.
My name is Janet Williams, and I am a co-founder of a local rescue called Animals Deserving of Rescue Everywhere. The acronym is ADORE Pet Rescue. And we work hand in hand with the shelter. In fact, most of our animals do come from the shelter. They're often high medical needs. But we are foster-based. We're completely volunteer, and all of our animals reside in homes. So we're very different from the shelter in that we don't have a bricks and mortar building, but our animals are living with families and children and other animals so that they're getting ready and getting socialized for adoption. Our little rescue handles about 800 animals a year, both dogs and cats, and I'm really excited to be here to talk to the community.
Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing.
Hi, everyone, and thank you guys so much for having us. My name is Desiree Pizio, and I'm one of the presidents of Rescue Me Orlando. We are a nonprofit, and we focus on networking the dogs that are at Orange County Animal Services for fosters and adopters. And in addition to that, we also try to help animals in need within our community. And we also try to assist other rescues with the dogs that they've taken. So we're a little different than Janet's rescue. We're kind of that middle person that tries to bring the community together with the shelter and, you know, try to find fosters and adopters and get pledges for medical and those types of things.
I think the first time I ever described Rescue Me Orlando, I may have said it was the Tinder for rescue. Match.com, because it, you know, it's this amazing world out there of some very specific rescues, some, you know, rescues that have, you know, more resources this time of year than this time of year, some individuals that can help sometimes but not all the time, and then this wide myriad of animals with need, and trying to match all that is very difficult. Well, you know, it sort of provides those links and the communication portion of it. So it was, to me, like the most I don't know when you all founded, but it felt like a very, like, this is so
modern day way to do it.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You know, and especially right now where so much of our lives are virtual, and we,
Oh, absolutely.
all of our, you know, finding out what's going on in the community, we start here, right? Or, you know, here. So it's such an interesting, it's a great concept and a way to kind of get all those details out of the need.
Well, Commissioner, I know you're a dog mom, so I'd love to hear about your experience. Part of, you know, you inspired me to become a first-time foster. The first month or so that I worked with you, you brought up the pity party of Central Florida and talked about the need of fostering, which is why I think this event is such a great thing to educate, because I learned so much in just these few months about the need for fostering animals. And right now I'm fostering a very sick pit bull, and the process has actually been, despite his health, really easy, really educational and informative, and it's just been so easy because the rescues have been able to really communicate with me, and I wish everybody understood how much of a need there is. Commissioner, would you like to share a little bit about kind of your experience in being a dog mom? And
I would rather hang out with dogs most of the time. And I think that we are sometimes not good enough for them. So probably if I had my way, there would be, you know, I'd have a bigger dog family, but I am very, very fortunate that I have two, I don't know, polka dotted dogs that one of them was probably very specifically a reject from a hunter. Well, actually the mother was, and the mother was found and fostered before she gave birth, and he was adopted and then returned, and so I knew that he needed to come with me because after that start in life that we were going to be his home. And his name is Happy, and he will sing along to the harmonica or trumpet or the cello. He tries to talk to you every chance he gets. He thinks that he's hunting. I'm a vegetarian, so I'm not sure how that's going to work out for him. And he loves our pool, so he's a riot because he's like a teenager. He jumps in the top and then he lays back out in the sun. And then when the sun goes down, he tries to find possums, and I have to bring him in because I'm scared he's going to bring me a possum. And then my best friend in the whole world is a little beagle-y, basset-y thing with crazy feet, and she is the smartest creature on the planet. When she was a puppy, she was found actually in a neighborhood out in District 1. And I thought for sure someone would come for her because she's so perfect, beautiful, smart, and sweet, and nobody did. So I was like, yes, she's mine. If they come for her now, they're not getting her. And she's been with us for 6 years now. She was probably a 9-month-old when we got her, but she was such a smart. We had a lab at the time that we rescued from, or we had from Lab Rescue of Florida, another fantastic rescue that has fosters all over the state, that that started to age and get something that was basically doggy dementia, and she would go into a corner and not figure out how to get back out of the corner. And my little lucky dog would herd her back out of the corner or come and get me. And I mean, come to my door, look at me, look back, and I knew that Raven must be stuck. And I would go and get her. And I mean, she took care of her, until, Raven aged with a little helper. And it was just to watch them bond, to me, was another really amazing experience, understanding the complexities of their relationships and the forms of bonds that they have that we don't even really probably know how to define, because we only understand the bonds that we have based on our experiences. So yeah, it's definitely something I feel very grateful for, the sweet loves of my life that I've had over my lifetime, that I had 4 feet, 4 paws, and a wet nose.
So luckily you were there and had that ability to be that safety net for your dogs. But there are other services that the county offers to kind of help a dog off the street that someone might bring in, and then how the rescues play a role in that relationship with the shelter as well. Maybe you can start us off, Diane, about that process.
Sure. So at Orange County Animal Services, we accept dogs as strays, and also people can surrender them. So owners who, for one reason or another, it doesn't work out, they do have the ability to surrender them to our shelter. We do encourage people to explore other options before coming to the shelter, so often reaching out to rescue groups or like the Pet Alliance of Greater Orlando, which is another large shelter in our community. But we are here as the safety net for all the dogs and cats that need us. And when it comes to dogs, we find that usually people are more interested in adopting dogs than cats. We get a lot more inquiries for our dogs, and we receive more cats than dogs generally. But the challenge often comes with dogs that have medical or sometimes behavior challenges. Those are the ones that we often turn to our rescue partners for help with. We have limited means at the shelter. We can only do so much with the resources that we have medically and behaviorally, so we often turn to them because you all have close relationships with local veterinarians, you all work with trainers, and can sometimes address issues that we cannot in the shelter environment. So we actually work with more than 80 rescue partners in Florida, and they're a huge blessing to us because the animals that rescues take in would probably otherwise not have been able to find a way out of the shelter.
And so I think for people who are tuning in, understanding that partnership, when you have dogs that come into animal services, when we went to visit, and they do a fabulous job, but it's a stressful environment for them, and it's more difficult to adopt them from your shelter than it would be from a foster home. And why do you think that would be? Or this might be a question for all of you all.
Well, I can speak to the shelter environment at least. Transitioning from a home environment to the shelter environment is so stressful for animals. The first thing that happens when they come to the shelter, they're scanned for a microchip. So a complete stranger is holding over a wand over them, basically trying to get any identification we can. Then they're injected with vaccines, then they're shoved in front of a camera. The most friendly dog in the world is going to be stressed out by that. And then they're put into a kennel. For some animals, they may have never been in a kennel environment in their life. So to see their family drive away, or the person that found them and was offering them, temporary help, to see that person drive away and then to be left with strangers, all these unfamiliar smells, unfamiliar sounds. And we have a limited staff. We want to be able to provide one-on-one time and attention for them, but there's also a myriad of other tasks that must be accomplished too. So for animals that are used to getting, solid attention, they don't get that in the shelter environment. So that can be very challenging, and it means sometimes they don't show their best. So we've seen often animals that we know did excellent in the home because their owner told us, like, oh, they're great, they get along with kids, cats, everything. Then they come in, they're terrified, they shut down, they're in the back of the kennel shaking. And when you have people walking past, those are often the animals that don't show well, and it's easy for people to walk past them, unfortunately.
Well, and one of the things that you do so well is you identify those and you make them available to rescues. And I can tell you that when we go in to the clinic to pull that terrified dog, by the time we get it out into the parking lot and into our car, you can just see the relaxation. And once we get it into our foster care, back into the home environment that they're used to, there's a little decompression time, but you can see the potential that that animal has. And the shelter does such a good job of identifying those that really need to get out. And those may not be medically needy, but they're emotionally needy, and they just need out.
Desiree, maybe you can tell us a little bit about that experience of working with a bunch of different rescues and hearing the stories of kind of how those dogs that are at the peak of need, how they transition.
Yeah, since we're that middle person, we like to keep track of the dogs once they do go to rescue, and we love getting updates, and it's amazing to see them from scared or maybe even having behavioral issues at the shelter to living their best life. So we love those updates. A little bit about us. When we post the dogs on our social media, we try to focus primarily on the dogs that are on the euthanasia list, the behavioral cases, the medically needy, and the seniors. Those to us are the ones that are most in need.
So critical cases.
Yeah, so we'll post those dogs on our page for fosters or adopters. Some aren't available for adoption, and those are considered rescue only. So if you ever see us post a dog that says rescue only, that means that a rescue will need a foster to save that dog. So that's where we come back to fostering is so important and can save a life. So when we post the dogs, we also get pledges on our page. And pledges are not honored if a dog is adopted. They're only honored if a dog goes to rescue. So those funds then get honored to the rescue that pulls the dog, and that goes towards their medical, training, supplies, everything that they need.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. When I was first scrolling on all the rescue social media looking at cute dogs, I saw people say, I pledged $20, I pledged $50. I never understood how that model works until you explained it to me. So people, just out of the kindness of their heart and maybe sponsors behind the scenes, they just pledge a donation to a dog?
They do. They might see the picture or read the story and it touches them, and
it's crowdsourcing.
Yes.
So, they'll pledge an amount, and, like I said, the money isn't actually getting donated until the dog is safe with a rescue. And then we update our post with a freedom photo, and that's the dog leaving the shelter. And we'll update with that photo and let everyone know how to honor their pledge, and that money will go towards anything that dog needs. So as a foster, it costs you nothing. And, that's a big question that we get on our page, and we like to reiterate that the rescue covers the expenses. You are providing the loving home. You're working with them if they're, let's say they're going to a trainer, and you can work with them on that. Or let's say they have medical issues. You may be taking them to the vet, giving them their medication. You're showing them love, like you're treating them as your own. And we also get a question, what if I fall in love with the dog?
Right, this is not
I will tell you, I am guilty of being a foster failure. My first
we all are.
foster stayed with me.
Foster winner.
Yeah, I like that better. Yeah, so as a foster, you do get first choice at adoption. So if you get your foster and, you fall in love, you can keep your foster.
So let me ask a bit from the shelter's perspective, because is the shelter allowed to accept pledges, and if not, then how does that work with the rescues, and how does that net kind of be built for that animal if there's people that are showing that dog attention?
That's a great question, because sometimes people will offer us pledges as well, but we actually don't get involved in the pledges. The way that we're set up as a municipal shelter, we can't take funds for specific animals. We do have a trust fund that people can donate to, which support supplemental programs like our spay neuter voucher program, our heartworm sponsorship program, and some various others. But we do not dabble in the pledges. That's something that the rescues really organize amongst themselves and their supporters.
And I think, just to try to tie this in with other things we've talked about when we work as a county in different departments with nonprofits, or it's a partnership where, as a county that's this big and diverse and complex, there are certainly not all the answers. And actually, I don't think even in the best of circumstances, government doesn't have all the answers. And really, those partnerships are critical in filling those pieces and giving either, the expertise, the care, whatever it needs to be in conjunction with, in partnership with, services.
Yes, definitely.
Hannah, sorry about that.
Janet, I wanted to ask you, so do you just get fosters that call out of the blue? Like, how do you, or are you knocking on doors? Like, how does that process work?
Occasionally we do get someone that may have, been thinking about it for a while and does call up and say, I'd like to volunteer. But mostly it's recruiting at events. We don't physically go knock on doors, but we knock on social media doors. Right. But what you have represented here is that collaboration that you were talking about. And I think all of us are looking to the community to foster, because as Desiree said, without a foster stepping up, a rescue cannot pull a dog. Yeah. And as you were saying, you can't accept pledges for a dog, but you do. And your work is so important to a nonprofit rescue because you are funded through the government. We are not. So we are funded through donations. And when you've posted a high medical needs animal, a dog got hit by a car and is going to need orthopedic surgery to save a leg, if we see that it has a significant amount of pledges, we can actually financially be able to take that animal if we have a foster.
Yeah, it all goes together.
It does.
Yeah. I mean, it really
does.
For all the things that I hate about social media, it really, living in this time and understanding how those connections can be made within a few hours if necessary. It's really remarkable.
Social media has changed the face of animal rescue.
Yeah.
100%.
It really has, because there could be someone in another state that is willing to save a dog, sponsor a dog, adopt a dog, and that's another life saved.
So let me dive a little deeper into that process. So someone wants to become a foster. What happens next? What do you do with them?
In our rescue, and it's not unlike many others, we actually have a process where we kind of put them through the same vetting, no pun intended, that we would put an adopter through. We do a home visit. We make sure they're a safe home for one of our animals. We make sure that their animals are up to date on their vaccinations, because we're taking an animal with an unknown medical history. We don't want to introduce any diseases into their home, but we don't want any of our vulnerable animals to get something. And we just make sure that they understand what our expectations are and what we're going to provide, which, as Desiree said, we provide everything. And the foster is to provide the loving home. But you raised an interesting question that I think we all have a story about is, I could never foster because I would keep them all. We won't let you. You will probably keep one, but we won't let you keep
if you're
20.
thinking about fostering, but you're concerned that you are going to become, so invested that you're going to get yourself in trouble, just know that you get a support system with that process.
Absolutely.
So you don't just get the support system of a vet contact or a medicine routine. It's literally an emotional support system that says, actually, there are people who are looking for a dog that fits this description, who really would be a good home for this, this sweet animal. So, and I do think, it's interesting because I love the foster fail stories, but for every foster fail stories, there are so many more great adoption stories.
Yes.
And I love, seeing the freedom rides and success stories of families, down the road where a dog that looked so stressed on the day that it came out of the shelter and allowed, and then how it looks some, months or years later, like a completely different animal. If you don't think that we're all subject to the kind of anxiety that will change your physical being, and I know that some of the animals get the, rash, and they look their, just the same sort of way that you would bite your nails if you're stressed. And So it's, about getting them in a home environment that's quieter, that has like a little bit more routine, right? The sensory stimulation, and that it feels like usually where they came from.
Right.
And I have to say, in the process of us bringing on Moo, so Moo's the pit bull that my boyfriend and I, we were like, yeah, we're going to get basically for sure going to be on a last call list kind of dog. That's going to be our first experience, right? We had no idea what we were getting into.
She's an all or nothing kind of
I wanted
lady.
to love it because, my heart it hurts for those dogs, right? But the process was so much better than I thought. So first off, we did, the pity party had me send a video of my yard and my house, where the dog's going to eat, where I expect, because I probably had unrealistic expectations of my own, being that I've never done it before. So they were the experts to tell me, oh yeah, you probably don't want to, you want to secure that gate, or you want to make sure that the dog's going to be, close to you where you sleep or something in case of, and they had this experience.
This isn't a good dog for someone who has a cat, or this isn't a great, that those things aren't, that they're not like a surprise for anybody who's willing to try fostering. And
Yeah, it needs to be a match. We get a lot of people that reach out to us and they want to foster a dog that needs to be an only pet, and they have 3 dogs. And we're like, that's not going to be a good fit. So, definitely finding that match.
Yeah, so then I thought, okay, well, what is the first few minutes going to be like? What is this dog going to bite me? What are we going to do? Well, they came with a trainer to my house and sat with us for over an hour to watch the composure of the dog, to teach us how to properly interact with it. And basically every question, they did not leave until every single one of our questions were answered. I thought that was so awesome. And then within a week, we had toys being sent to our house and treats, and every single accessory was sent, and the medication was explained to us. It was so hands-on and comprehensive, it made me feel more secure in my decision, because I was very scared.
Yeah.
And most rescues will also, if you are fostering a dog and it's just not working out, that's something that we're learning about the dog that we didn't know before. How it interacted in your home, because it may have come right from a shelter with no history. And then most rescues will work with you to move that dog to a more suitable environment. So maybe we find out it doesn't like cats, and we didn't know that before. And you've got 4 cats, so we need to move it.
From the shelter standpoint, though, because I wanted to ask, I learned something so big during that April 8th tour that we did. There's sometimes bad owners that are keeping dogs in inhumane conditions and what have you. And can you tell us a little bit about that process of how the shelter works with those cases and those legal cases as well?
Yes, which is unfortunately a very timely question, as we've had a number of confiscation cases within the past few weeks. A confiscation means that legally we can remove animals from a home if they are in immediate danger. If we feel that either the conditions they are in are unsafe, or they have pressing medical issues that are not being addressed by the owner. And so we've had a number of those cases, and I will say Orange County Animal Services operates on a civil level, and we work closely with law enforcement. So when it comes to cruelty type charges, those are pursued by law enforcement, but we often handle the seizure of the animals, and we can issue civil citations, but it's up to law enforcement to take it as far as they deem appropriate in terms of actual charges. But we've had a number of seizure cases lately, the largest of which being 33 dogs from a single residence. And then I told you we had a case of 20 dogs, which compared to the 33 actually didn't seem quite as shocking, but it is. And then we've had a number of smaller cases as well. And so when we take in those animals, we have to petition for custody. And what that means is we have to file, and it's a legal process, we have to go before a judge, and we essentially plead our case for why we don't think the animals are safe in that environment, and the owner can plead their case for why they think they should have the animals back. And then a judge makes a determination. There is then a 30-day appeal window afforded to the owner if they wish to contest it. So all in all, it means those animals will be cared for in the shelter environment for approximately 2 to 3 months.
So I'm going to jump in really quickly to kind of cap or bookend the issue that they're seeing, and also what the what the process would be for a civil citation versus something where law enforcement would get involved, in my understanding. So stop me if I'm off. But if there's a cruelty case and there looks like intent, right? Somebody intended to hurt an animal, that is clearly against the law and that's a crime. As our laws are written right now, though, animals are property. Are cats, dogs, these are all property, which means that many of these situations are either neglect or situations where there may be some something transitionally happening with the family, and that's not necessarily a criminal case. It's not going to help to pursue a criminal charge.
Correct.
But we still have to, as a community, as a society, step in and intervene in a legal way, because otherwise you're just taking someone's property, and that's unconstitutional. So the idea of due process and property rights comes into play. I think for those of you that I've known for a while, you know that I feel that ultimately in coming years, I would like to see animals, be able to become their own legal entity, so that the understanding of being a victim of something isn't necessarily tied to a property right of a human. So that's something that we'll continue to explore. I've done some legal writing on it. If anyone's curious about it, I think it's a really important thing to consider. In that we will always be somewhat constrained with some of these issues if we have only the ability to label these sentient creatures as property.
Yes, I think that's a good point that you made, because all too often I think people are under the impression that if something appears visibly to be cruelty, we can just take the animals and that's it.
Right.
But animals are considered property. The owners are afforded due process, so we have to petition for custody, which there's a number of cases that are, obviously the court system is quite busy. So there is a wait process for that, and during that time we cannot transfer ownership anywhere else, so the animals stay put with us during that time. So at the moment we have, I believe, 51 dogs on hold for confiscations at the moment, which is a serious impact to us because it has reduced the number of cages that we have for our available animals, our adoptable animals. So that's why yesterday we did a big press release out to the media and on social media as well, really calling for dog adopters and foster parents for kittens. That's really our two biggest needs right now, are people to step forward for dogs to adopt and kittens to foster.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're thinking about it, and I'm always so frustrated when there's like a rush on the dogs and kittens at Christmas time. Really, going into summer is the best time. Going into summer is the best time, because you're going to have possibly, if you have older kids that may be home from college or high school, that can really spend some good time training and getting, making that a summer project. And it's really a great time, and knowing that the need right now is up really, really high, right? This is a critical need time.
Yes.
So it's, probably a variety of reasoning, but whatever it is, there's been two large
cases and then a couple other smaller ones, and all in all that means we're caring for more than 300 animals in our shelter and nearly 200 out in foster care.
Wow.
So we have about 500 animals under our umbrella at the moment.
And it's kitten season, so the flood has begun.
Yes. Well, the kitten numbers will only increase. And
Yes.
Janet, I know you, because you receive, and Desiree, you as well receive our emails, so I'll apologize for the sheer volume of emails that we send every day. But we have so many animals in need, and we communicate via email with our foster parents and our rescue partners. And the more foster parents that we have on board, whether it be through our shelter or through the rescue groups, the more animals we can save. It's as simple as that.
And I think it's interesting, having found out that there really are times that things seem to kind of quiet down for whatever reason. There were times, and then there are times that the need goes up so high. So understanding that that's not always necessarily about your, lifetime commitment, but that the ability to foster for some period of time, and then helping that animal transition into another home, and how important that commitment is, even if it is several months or longer. What are some other sort of, if somebody is tuning in right now and they really want to help and they're feeling, frustrated because they can't foster or adopt, what would be some other ways that they could help?
So this is the kind of problem where I do feel like everyone can help in some way. Maybe adopting isn't right. Maybe fostering isn't right in this moment. We need volunteers because, as I was mentioning earlier, we don't have necessarily enough staff to give all of these animals when there are so many. I think the one-on-one time and attention they deserve, but volunteers can really help us with that. taking the animals out for socialization, helping to showcase them to adopters, helping to socialize them so that maybe they make better foster pets as well. And also just sharing the word, honestly, because there are still people that do not know about Orange County Animal Services, about some of our local rescue partners. So really just sharing that is so, so helpful.
Yeah, and it's a little tricky if you go visit the, like the Pet Alliance is right next door, which I know there was another nonprofit there before that, but Orange County is different because it is a municipal, it's a department within our county, which means that oftentimes the most critical cases
Yes.
are going to always be ours. And I think, if you're interested, make sure that you go to the website, and then if we can go down the line about other ideas maybe for how to help. And
One of the greatest needs that many rescues have are people who will volunteer to transport. Taking an animal to a veterinarian appointment, going to the shelter to pick up an animal, to take it to a foster. Oftentimes we have to be there by a certain time, and we may not have an available person to go down and get it. But if you've got an hour or two and you can drive an animal from point A to point B, that can save a life.
That's a good point. We call that our UPER program at the shelter.
Your social media and puns are the best.
We try so hard.
That's the best.
Yeah, what would you say, Desiree, to those who might be hesitant to foster, or kind of like there's some stigma out there, or obstacles? What would you say to those people?
I mean, to me, it's just, you can save a life. I mean, what more could you want? You can be that change, and you can literally keep a dog from losing its life. And for me, that's what made me foster, and I have the most amazing dog because of it, So it's just, give it a try.
So you're saying the dog saved you just as much
Yeah,
as you saved the
absolutely.
dog?
She's attached to me as much as I'm attached to her, so we're pretty much glued to each other.
I'm sure that you probably get some crazy questions. There's probably some stigmas against, like, fostering and adopting. What's some of the things that you hear most often of people that are hesitant?
I think people that reach out, the biggest thing that they're hesitant on is, do they have to pay for everything? They might see a dog posted that needs some, $3,000 surgery, and they know that they can't afford that. So, it's really important for us to let them know that, the rescue covers that. That's what the pledges on our page will go towards, is that care. You do not pay for that. So that's one of the biggest things. And, sometimes some people have breed restrictions. So when they reach out about fostering, if it is a certain breed, we might have to steer them in the direction of another dog. So, when people reach out to us, we do have some questions that we ask them to make sure that they're a good fit as well.
I think you hit on one of the barriers when you were talking about your current foster and the first few seconds that it came into your house. Is it going to bite me? I think a lot of people are worried about behavior, about are they housebroken? And, we tell fosters, relax, see how it goes, because these are not perfect. They are perfectly imperfect, and they're wonderful, and they just need a chance. If people are worried about dogs being too aggressive or too much for a small apartment, foster a kitten.
Yeah.
Please, foster a kitten.
If they're aggressive, you just can pick them up.
There you go. And they're self-contained. But they're perfect for people that do have breed restrictions or something like that. That cats have such a great need right now.
Yes.
Right now, this is the time.
I
next 3
apologize
months.
for not focusing on that. I am allergic to cats, so I don't know as much about them. It's really just like my lack of, it's a little blind spot for me, and I love them. They just make my eyes do funny things,
But that's also a barrier to fostering. A lot of people would love to foster, but they can't have a pet
Yeah.
because they're allergic, and that's why there are many other ways to help.
But I know that, for people who are in a smaller area, really being a kitten foster right now, and what a life-saving thing that would be to have a little sweet kitten to come home to for, your days, your long days, or because I know that also with dogs that sometimes the time is a little bit more consuming, and so I think there can be some consideration there too for people that are thinking about fostering.
Yeah, when you brought up property law, it it always hurts my brain to think about animals that way because I see animals very similarly to humans, where how can you write a law about something that has such a spectrum of trauma and emotions and needs that, you know, they can't really communicate. So how can you write a law that forces you to look at this thing as a commodity?
Well, because it is, our law is what we've inherited from, basically Western European Magna Carta. You go back and what used to be, you pick up a piece of your property and hand it to somebody, and that was a transaction. And really, if you think about the way that law has adapted and evolved, it is either through large movements where a community came together and said, this isn't working anymore. We understand more now than we did 100 years ago. Or because the courts said, you know what, we're going to interpret this differently now. I don't think that's going to happen because there is a commodification of animals. And we talk about some of the oversight that government has in protecting our pets and the pet commodity or industry, if you will. And at the federal level, it's the USDA, which we know is the same thing that keeps an eye on, basically cattle farms and chicken farms, which they're, really overwhelmed. They're spread out. We understand that there's across the country, there's a lot of money to be made in breeding and selling large volumes of pets and shipping them all over the country to places that they can then, sell them to consumers who unwittingly or unknowingly fall in love, because there's a sweet little animal there. So, this kind of brings us to an issue that's going to be coming up on the BCC agenda this week. We're going to discuss again, some of the options, or actually two options for how to protect Orange County consumers from predatory practices in the pet retail world, and how to protect the animals that become really an import from unethical breeders in other parts of the country.
And there's, I would say, close to almost 500 people that emailed us. And if any of you are watching right now, please reach out if you want to help, either pledging or fostering or adopting, because I love the engagement. I love that so many people are reaching out and being a part of the conversation. But there are action items.
Absolutely. There's things that we can do immediately, and I think it's a really important thing. Listen, there is nobody out there that doesn't think about some of those policy obstacles more than I do, and I really am proud of how far we've come in developing what looks like, at the very least, some protective language in an ordinance for here in Orange County. We are really modeling ordinances that have stood up in other areas. And just to sort of clarify, in case this is a first time tuning in for you, Orange County is looking at a pet retail store ban. And what that means is this isn't about reputable breeders. This isn't about going to a rescue. This is about sort of that storefront retail market that we have found out over a certain period of time is the end point of the puppy mill industry. And there's a wealth of data out there that says that consumers are spending a lot of money, oftentimes going into debt, and in return, they're receiving animals that are sick, that can bring sickness into their home. And these animals, they fall in love with them. It's a beautiful little life, and sadly, oftentimes they lose their money, they lose the pet, and then they've also brought in a sickness to the other pets in their home or to their children. And so we may not have any ability to ever shut down puppy mills in the Midwest, which is where the research is showing a lot of these puppy mills are. But the very least we can do is look for solutions so that we're not giving an opportunity for those puppy mills to do business here in Orange County. And so we really want to protect our residents with this. We want to protect the animals with this. We want to make sure that, I think on the animal services end, we don't know when a dog gets dropped off at animal services or is left in a house when someone moves out, we don't know if they came from a puppy mill. We're never going to. But what we do know is that there were 8,000 puppies sold in retail outlets. Is that what the number was? Just in Orange County. And so looking at that, it leads you to wonder, where and how are those pets, and what were the outcomes. And I think when we went on our tour, and Lee and I went on our tour at Animal Services, we had the honor and opportunity to meet some amazing veterinary staff there, and a vet who was actually fostering a pet retail sweet little puppy who had a wide variety of chronic illnesses. Hopefully this dog will survive. And luckily there was a vet that was willing to foster. But another family purchased that puppy for upwards of, $2,000. And then when they found out that the animal was sick, the pet store was like, well, we can give you another one, as though it was a pair of jeans or a pair of sneakers. And so we are enough of a caring community to really right now look for, I think, what needs to be the first step in trying to address how we can take better care of all of our furry friends and also our residents.
The solutions are right here. You have this whole network of people who have big hearts that want to help, and it's already inundated with puppies that need homes.
Mm-hmm.
Providing more space for irresponsible breeders to inundate the market even more with more of this demand, it doesn't help the root of the problem.
Yeah. And I also want to be clear, I've spoken with people there are people out there who really love their breed and that are responsible breeders, and what they're many times also very supportive because they're worried about the health of their breed, and they're concerned for the lives of these animals and for the people that are affected. So I just want to make sure I'm clearly delineating that's not who we're talking about in this particular ordinance.
Any closing remarks and social media plugs that you guys want to do?
Oh yes, you got to give us ours.
So I do want to let you know the puppy that you met that was being fostered by our veterinarian is in the process of being foster failed or foster
Foster winning.
Yes, foster winning. So I'm very happy to report that, which is a good ending for that puppy.
So what a fortunate thing that there was
Yes.
a medical expert.
It couldn't have been a better pairing,
Right.
actually.
Right.
Yes. And he will be just fine once now that his issues have been addressed. And in terms of social media plugs, Orange County Animal Services is very active on Facebook and Instagram, and we have a website as well, which is up to date with all of the pets in our care. And we also have a promotion going on for the month of May, which is a play on Bridgerton. It's Lady Whiskertown. And so that promotion reduces the adoption fees for both dogs and cats that are ready for immediate adoption to just $10. And we have many of those that have already been spayed or neutered, vaccinated, and microchipped, so they're ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
Standard adoption fees are just $55 for dogs and $40 for cats, so it's very reasonable to adopt.
If you have any questions about that and you need to reach out to our office, we will get you connected. I love hearing if you don't follow them on social media, there is some serious pun action going on. It is the best.
Law and Order was my favorite.
Yeah.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. So I'll just tell you what our website and social media is. We're Adore Pet Rescue on Facebook, and we're adorepetrescue.org. And that's where you can find our foster and our adoption application.
And our social media is Rescue Me Orlando, and we are on Facebook and Instagram. And if you see any dogs on our page that you're interested in fostering or adopting, please message us and we can answer any questions that you have and point you in the right direction.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about the ordinance that's coming up, please reach out. I am also still, doing a lot of the research. Obviously, we've had a good history of and some time to look at this and to look at other jurisdictions, but it's just one part of really trying to make sure that we're caring really for our residents, for our furry friends, and our community as a whole. And then if you also have other, if you know people that are watching this, if there's other rescues out there that you want to drop the link for, let us know about. We really love the dialogue, and I love the partnerships that we're able to make in our community. And it's going to take all of us, right? Like it takes all of us to take care of each other and to take care of our animals. And so I think it's something that it's a really heartfelt, and also it comes down to what happens on paper and what happens out in our community. So we just want to stay engaged and really hear what your thoughts are. And yeah, I think that's it, unless you can think of anything else. Do you guys have any last?
No, just a great opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Don't you all think we should do this sometime with the dogs?
Oh, that would be fun.
I was trying to figure out how to sneak Lucky Dog in.
I definitely want to also highlight rabbits as well.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry.
It doesn't stop at just dogs and cats. There's also a rabbit bunny crisis that are in need of fosters too. So if you're even allergic to cats but not rabbits, you could become a rabbit foster. So some action items right off the bat: email district1@ocfl.net if you have any questions. Submit public comment during the May 11th retail pet store ban conversation. Submit pledges on Facebook. Follow these different platforms.
And share, just share. I mean, it's like the most basic things, but I think I know I was one of them. I have a dog that I got by a share, so it definitely helps getting that word out and continuing to repeat it. And, that's how we network our friends that can't use their thumbs to network themselves.
Yeah.
Donate if you can, and volunteer. And of course, if you can, become a foster or adopt. That's the root of, the goal of this conversation. And if you have any fears, we are all here. Commissioner, do you have any closing remarks?
I just want to thank you all so much again. And I mean, for everything, your time, your energy, your love of this, this issue of your community enough to continue to push on the hard days. And I am just very grateful. And I want to see, we can maybe round back and do it again a little bit, and maybe show off some dogs that maybe are looking for a foster. That would be fun.
Well, thank you.
And happy Mother's Day.
And happy Mother's Day. I was just going to say, I don't want to get emotional, but Commissioner Wilson is like the mom of this office. She is the sweetest. She's been just so caring and loving. So happy Mother's Day to you.
Oh, that is so sweet. That makes me feel bad about all the times that I've maybe not been.
And have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.